couple of weeks ago, we had on Paul Waldman, who was the co-author with David Brock of the book Free Ride, John McCain and the Media. And
great book, yeah.
Yeah, and in his book, and I don't usually quote someone else's book when I'm interviewing an author about theirs.
That's okay.
But there's just a wonderful moment in this book, in fact, on page 3 of Free Ride, where he actually quotes from a script of a movie called Singles. And this scene that he lays out is at a singles bar with a guy who is trying to pick up a girl. And the guy's name is Steve, and the girl's name is Linda. And Steve walks over to Linda, and he says...
I actually remember this scene.
Do you?
I do. Go ahead.
He says, my friend and I have this argument, and here it is. He says, when you're at a place like this, you can't just be yourself. You need an act. So anyway, I saw you standing there, so I thought, A, I could just leave you alone. B, I could come up with an act. Or C, I could just be myself. I chose C. What do you think? And Linda answers, I think that A, you have an act, and that B, not having an act is your act. Is that John McCain's act?
That is. That's actually brilliant. I've got a copy of Paul's book. We're old friends, and yet I haven't read it yet because obviously I've been busy promoting mine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. The truth of the matter is that he and his handlers over the years have brilliantly used his history as a war hero, Vietnam, the deference that is immediately awarded him because of that, so that reporters are kind of gun-shy about asking him the kinds of questions they'd ask other people.
Yeah.
And so they've used that to mold this sort of Teddy Roosevelt resurrected persona of this tough, guy charging up San Juan Hill and fighting for reform and these other things. And then, of course, to add to that, the sprinkle or the cherry on the sundae, so to speak, is that he kisses their butts. He backslaps with them. He has them over the ranch for barbecue.
Yeah.
Does all that stuff. So when you add all that together, you get this what I would call a toxic brew of these guys literally almost bending over backwards for him, not reporting all sorts of incidents, a few of which I reported in my book because they literally were just left on the floor. Very sort of disturbing stories about him that had never been reported, even though they were right in front of reporters' eyes. And we get this image of this guy that's, supposedly a maverick and a straight talker and a reformer. The guy who was in one of the worst scandals in the last generation, the Keating 5 scandal, and since that time has ridden on, been on more airplanes with more lobbyists than you can imagine.
Right.
And yet he's supposed to be a reformer, a guy that's switched virtually every position he's had in his career, from whether we should invade foreign countries, to abortion rights, to gay rights, to creationism, to tax cuts, balancing the budget. He's switched on everything, and yet that's supposed to be a guy that we're supposed to think is a straight talker. And he tells himself as this bipartisan guy that works well with people. Meanwhile, he's this temperamental, vicious guy who most people can't stand, who work around him and actually fear because they don't know when the next eruption is going to come and what he'll do, because he's actually physically assaulted a couple of his fellow members of the Senate and House, as well as going into these profanity-laced tirades against many others, all Republicans. I can give you names of. I don't even need to go into the Democrats. So,
well, one of them too, the one that has been the most vocal is former Senator Thad Cochran of Mississippi, who I believe was the co-sponsor with him of the McCain-Feingold bill, which was McCain-Feingold-Cochran for a while.
Yeah, actually, Cochran's still there.
I'm sorry. Okay.
It's okay. Yeah, he's still there. There is a former senator.
I guess that's projection. That's wishful thinking.
Well, we all hope.
Yeah, right.
But Cochran did. He sort of now jumped into line and isn't saying bad things. But yes, I use that as a quote at the beginning of one of my chapters that, the thought of McCain as a president sends a cold chill down my spine, because he witnessed McCain at a 1987 diplomatic meeting with the Sandinistas of Nicaragua, where there were guns present, and McCain literally just reached across the table when he got angry and sounds like trying to strangle somebody. Well, I broke a story in my book. He did the same thing with a Republican congressman, 2006, who later became a friend of his, Rick Renzi, who he physically assaulted.
Yeah.
But another couple other stories have broken with him physically assaulting a Republican Senator Chuck Grassley and late Senator Strom Thurmond. When Thurmond was in his 90s, McCain, after getting into an argument with him, walked by him and purposely brushed up against him and knocked him over. So this is the guy we're talking about. This isn't a garden variety sort of, oh yeah, he's got a temper. This is a dangerous, explosive temper that people should fear, frankly, because if he's going to go to diplomatic meetings like that one he went to in 1987, I don't think we can expect that our best interests will be represented there.